A boy in a wheelchair hits the ground, pushed, laughed at, left behind. 20 minutes later, a quiet black girl stands. No yelling, no warning, just purpose. What they broke, she's about to restore. Her way. The bell rang and the hallway came alive. Shoes squeaking, lockers slamming, voices rising like a daily chorus. Students flowed like a current, each group sticking to its lane. Athletes leaned against lockers like they owned them. The loud ones laughed too hard. The quiet ones kept their heads down. And in the middle of it all, rolling along the edge, was a boy in a wheelchair. He didn't ask for attention, just a clear path. He moved slowly, balancing a tray of books on his lap, his eyes focused on the floor as if trying to disappear into it. But they saw him. The ones who always needed an audience. They didn't move aside. They spread wider. One stepped right in front of his wheel with a smirk. Another snatched a book from his lap like it was a game. Laughter. One word, sharp, mocking, cut through the noise. And then came the shove. It wasn't a full push, just enough to tip the balance. The wheelchair jerked, tilted, and crashed sideways. His body hit the floor. Books skidded across the hallway. And the laughter, louder now, filled every inch of the space. No one helped, not the teachers, not the students. Some slowed down. Most walked around. Phones stayed in pockets. Eyes avoided the scene like it might infect them. The boy reached weakly for his books, cheeks burning. He didn't cry. That would have been another show. On the staircase above, a girl sat quietly, a pen in her hand, notebook resting on her knee. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She watched. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes did. Something behind them hardened, focused. As the laughter echoed and the bullies walked off like nothing had happened, she closed her notebook, stood slowly, bag over one shoulder, not a word spoken, not a sound. She walked down the stairs, not toward the boy, but in the opposite direction, past the lockers, past the noise, calm, still. But something in the air shifted, like the temperature had dropped a few degrees, the kind of silence that doesn't ask for attention, but demands it anyway. They didn't see her then, but they would. The classroom buzzed with low chatter. The bullies sat in the back, slouched in their chairs, smirking like they owned the space. One of them mimicked the fall, arms flailing, mouth wide in fake shock, while the others cracked up like it was the joke of the year. The teacher, too distracted or too indifferent, didn't notice, or maybe didn't care. The girl sat near the window, face expressionless, notebook open but untouched. She didn't look at them. She didn't need to. She was listening, measuring, remembering. They were predictable. Same lunch table, same hallway routes, same jokes, same weaknesses. One always left his gym bag behind. Another never locked his locker. The leader? He liked being watched, needed it. She didn't write any of this down. It lived in her mind, clean, sharp, quiet. Later that day, she found the boy sitting alone in the courtyard, struggling to place a book into his bag. His arm was bruised, his wrist shaky. She didn't say anything, just knelt beside him, gently helped him pack, adjusted the strap on his backpack, then stood. He looked up at her, confused. But she just gave him a small nod and walked away. She didn't ask if he was okay. That wasn't the kind of question you asked when you already knew the answer. At home, the silence followed her like a shadow. She entered her room, dropped her bag, and stepped onto the mat in the corner. A pair of worn gloves hung from a hook on the wall. She wrapped her hands, each movement deliberate. The mirror in front of her didn't reflect anger. It reflected control. She moved through her routine, jabs, crosses, footwork. Her breathing matched the rhythm of her strikes. Not fast, not furious, focused, efficient. A memory flickered. Her first self-defense class, falling hard, getting back up harder. Another flash, her instructor's voice. You don't fight to prove something. You fight when there's no other way to move forward. She paused, sweat lining her brow, and walked over to her desk, opened her drawer, pulled out a small card. On it, a name. Maybe a mentor, maybe someone she trusted, maybe no one at all. She flipped it once between her fingers, then tucked it into her notebook. At school the next morning, nothing had changed, on the surface. The bullies were still laughing. The boy was still silent. The teachers still blind. But the girl? She was no longer watching. She was waiting, calculating. And behind those calm eyes, something was already moving. Not rage, not revenge. Precision. It started small. One of the bullies went to his locker between classes, spinning the combination with the usual lazy confidence, only to find it jammed. He tried again, harder. Nothing. When he finally got it open, his phone was gone. Panic flashed across his face, but he covered it quickly, looking around as if someone might hand it back with a smirk. No one did. He whispered to his friends. None of them knew anything, or so they claimed. In class, another tried to pull his usual stunt, flicking a rubber band at a shy kid 2 rows ahead. But this time, the target spun around just as the teacher turned. The substitute had no patience. The bully was sent to the hallway, red-faced and furious, his protest drowned out by the chuckles of classmates. He slammed the door behind him. By lunch, tension was rising. Whispers between the group turned sharp. Accusations flew under their breath. Who messed with the locker? Who tipped off the teacher? Trust started to crack, and the cracks deepened with every passing hour. In gym, one of them dashed across the court, showing off during warm-ups. His foot caught a lace, one tied just a little too loose, just a little too wrong. He hit the floor hard, knees scraped, ego bruised. Laughter echoed, but this time, not from his friends. And through it all, she walked, not fast, not slow, just steady. Calm, silent, eyes forward, eyes that met theirs one by one. No words, no smirks, just gaze, unblinking, unafraid. They started to notice her then, started to feel her presence like a shadow growing longer by the hour. Then, the final piece. The ringleader found himself alone behind the gym after the last bell. She was already there, waiting. She didn't yell, she didn't threaten. She simply spoke, low, sharp, precise. Words like blades, cutting deeper because they were true. She told him what he did, what he allowed, and how it ended here. He tried to laugh. It died in his throat. She didn't need fists to shake him, just presence, just certainty, just control. When she walked away, he didn't follow. Couldn't. He stayed there, staring at the ground, like he finally understood something. Something too late. The school felt different, like the volume had been turned down. The bullies moved through the hallways quieter now, glancing over their shoulders, avoiding each other's eyes. Their laughter was gone, replaced by tension they couldn't explain. The power they fed on had slipped through their fingers, and they didn't even know how. Rumors swirled, but no one had proof. No one saw her do anything. She never had to. The boy in the wheelchair rolled into the cafeteria, head higher than before. For the first time in days, he wasn't watching the floor. His lips curved into a smile, small, real, steady. He didn't know the full story, but he felt it. The weight had shifted. Something had cleared the path. She sat at her usual spot, silent as always, notebook open, pen in hand. But she wasn't writing, just watching. Not with anger, not anymore. Just awareness. Her part was over. She didn't need applause, didn't want it. As the final bell rang, students spilled out into the hallway. A teacher stood near the doors, arms crossed, eyes following her as she walked past. No words were exchanged, just a small nod, acknowledgement, quiet and certain. Maybe the teacher had known, maybe not. But now, they understood. She walked out the front doors without looking back. No celebration, no crowd, just calm. Behind her, the same hallway that once held cruelty now felt level. And then, the chair rolled forward, smooth, unblocked. The boy glided down the center of the hallway, books in his lap, no hands in his way. People moved aside, not out of fear, but out of something new. Respect. Awareness. The ones who laughed before now lowered their eyes. The ones who looked away now saw everything. Justice hadn't come loudly. It came like she did, quietly, on her own terms, and it stayed.